So, once again, I am Harrison Turner. I am a consultant working for the Nashville Department of Transportation, and we are going over the Cabin Hill Road traffic calming plan. This is meeting number 2, July 18th at 5:45, plus or minus a few minutes. And we do have an in-person group at Lebanon Road Church of Christ, and there are a few people that have joined online virtually. So just to do a brief overview for everybody that wasn't here, the first time we're just going to go over what is traffic calming really quickly, because I do know several of you were here the first time as well. Just a brief overview of what we're doing. So what is traffic calming? And we focus on residential streets very similar to Cabin Hill Road. We focus on physical solutions that encourage lower speeds over significant lengths. So we're not trying to slow it down at one particular point. We're trying to do a longer stretch that is residential, trying to make it safe for everybody that works and plays on these streets. We're not targeting highways or arterials or anything like that with the neighborhood street program. The 3 E's of traffic calming: we have education, which are things like this presentation. We have the enforcement side that's handled through the Metro Nashville Police Department. They're in charge of the enforcement. And then my personal favorite as a traffic engineer is the engineering. I love that line. I say it every single one of these meetings. And that is the actual things we can do to encourage safer driving on our streets and make sure that we do have a safer streets for everybody to live, work, and play. So this is part of our Safety and Vision Zero initiative. And just some stats here. If a pedestrian's hit by a car going 45, the pedestrian only has a 35% chance of surviving that incident. We can get that down to a slower speed of 25, 89% chance that pedestrian's able to walk away and survive. So that's really the goal. Is we don't want people going 45 in residential areas. That's just not safe for anybody on the streets. We can get that down to that 20, 25 mile an hour range when there is an incident. Unfortunately, those do happen. Hopefully everybody can walk away. That's the end goal of this. So very popular program as of last February, which we need to update these numbers. We had 464 streets, and then there were 26 streets part of this selection. And we did have an additional 65 streets as well that were selected. So we had pretty big set of streets. Very popular. Everybody in Nashville, you can see on the map all the different purple lines that have applied for it. So we do have a matrix to pick the streets to make sure that we're using our funding in the best way to get the most bang for our buck as far as making our streets safer. If you have any questions outside the NSTC program, please use Hub Nashville. I use Hub Nashville to fix some sidewalk in front of my house. I like to say that a lot as well because it's really cool. You can call 311, you can go to hub.nashville.gov, or you can use the app. So getting into actually the plan for Cabin Hill. So this is the location map of the streets that we're doing from McGavick Pike up to, do you believe that's Fairbrook? Yes. So that's the stretch. If you were on that stretch, that's the streets that's what we did the analysis for, and that's where we're proposing the solutions. So moving into those, the recommended measures that we're going to use for Cabin Hill Road. The first one is those speed cushions. I know we talked about those pretty extensively, and we've gone out and actually marked where those locations are so that you're able to see kind of how often they would be in the field. So they are a modular rubberized device. They have this gaps between them that help reduce impact to emergency vehicles. They're about 3 inches tall, about 6 foot wide. They come in lengths of 7, 10 and a half, and 14 feet. So we have different options for different roadways. I personally have these in the street in front of my house. They do help slow down not only me, but also my neighbors. So it has been a calming effect on my street. I can guarantee that from a personal experience, and we also have stats to back that up. So here are the stats. The average speed, where we did some studies on these, we did 6 different studies. They went from 31 to 22 miles an hour on the average, and then to 37 to 25 on the 85th percentile speed. Another thing that we're going to use on Cabin Hill Road is the radar feedback sign. Those are typically used where we can't use cushions due to geometric constraints, such as hills and curves. So they have an average speed reduction of about 6 miles per hour, and they have a 7 mile per hour reduction on the 85th percentile speed. One other thing we're going to do at the intersection of McGavick is a bulb out, which we're going to use striping for this one, where we tighten the turn radius and with striping so that you have to have a visual narrowing, and then you have to kind of pinch in a little bit to make that turn. It provides a slower turning movement and makes the intersection safer for anybody trying to cross the street. So this is the official overview of the plan. there are 8 sets of cushions, 2 radar feedback signs, and a bulb out. And we'll go through 4 different sheets, kind of highlighting the set of 2 or 3 cushions, so that we can go through those exact locations. And those were marked in the field. Hopefully, y'all are able to drive by and see those. So starting up near Fairbrook Drive, we do have a set of cushions just south of the intersection. And then we have another set of cushions roughly 450, 500 feet south of that, kind of at the bottom, where that little creek crossing is. And then moving south or southeast, we do have another set of cushions right before the intersection, and then a set of cushions about 350, 400 feet south of that intersection, and then moving forward again another 400 or so feet. And those cushions are so we have one 70 feet east of a driveway at 2297. Then we have one 45 foot east of the driveway of 2312, and then another one 30 foot east of the driveway at 2326. And I'll go back to the first slide to give you the exact. So it's 45 feet northwest of 2245, and the other one is 40 feet south of the driveway at 2251. So the first one, we did have a speed cushion sign, and then we have a flexible delineator on the other side. We originally were just going to use speed limit signs the whole way, but I know that y'all had asked to have less signage, so we did use flexible delineators to keep the cars off the shoulder, but still not having giant signs as much as possible. And then we have 2 sets of flexible delineators on the one on the southern side here. And then we have 1 sign and 1 delineator as you're entering that stretch. So you basically have their speed cushions as you move forward, and then you have delineators moving out. And then because there are entrances and egresses at the next set, there's signs at that one. And then we kind of hit the same scenario at the one just south or southeast. Yeah. And then moving towards Donna Hill Drive, we do have a radar feedback sign facing traffic that is flowing to the west. That's going kind of down the hill. And then we have a set of cushions southeast of that, 40 foot east of the driveway at 2418. And then we have another set of cushions southeast of that one at 50 foot west of 2435. And then we have our last set of cushions 40 foot west of the driveway at 2451. And then we have a radar feedback sign as you come down off McGavick and around the corner. And then we are proposing a striped bulb out at McGavick. We originally talked about putting flexible delineators with that bulb out, but talking with y'all wanted to just go back to the striping, so we did just the striping. And then you can kind of see, this is our proposed striping plan here on the bottom left, really pinching that in to about 20 foot and adding a crossbar. And then the configuration for the speed cushions we are proposing, because it's a narrower street, 2 sets of cushions. And those are going to be 10.5 foot wide. So not the 7 foot that's really abrupt, but also not the 14 footer. So we're going with the middle section, and that's consistent with a suburban road of this characteristic. So they're 10.5 foot long. Yeah, 10.5 foot long, 6 foot wide, 3 inches tall. Yeah, so this is a suburban neighborhood road. So there is a decent amount of traffic, but there's not a ton of traffic. It's not like a rural road where you only have a house every so many feet. It is fairly dense, so we wanted a 10.5, which is consistent for the speed limit we're trying to target at that density of housing. It's the opposite way. The shorter they are, the more abrupt it is to go over it. You have a bump instead of a bump. So the longer they are, the more comfortable it is to go over them faster. Yes. I don't know off the top of my head. Typically, Fairlane. Fairway. I don't know off the top of my head. I can go back and look. 10.5 is pretty typical. Once again, it's the middle scenario, and that's typical for like a 25-mile-an-hour running speed is what we're trying to target with those for a suburban residential area. Oh, I'm open to questions the whole time, but yes.
Can I ask a question?
Straight away. speed bumps between here.
Correct. Okay.
Higher than
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll I'll gladly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll gladly answer that question. And then I'll turn around and answer the question that was posed online. Darren, if you'd like to put the question in the chat, I'll answer it immediately following this one. Um, so your question is, so we look at the application and what was applied for was these limits. So when we go through and evaluate the application, we don't change the limits for the applications, basically.
the other consideration is that so that one block between Fairbrooke
Correct.
and many of the people
So-
that live on.
Absolutely. And we're actually going to show the map of who we send it to. And you'll see we only send it to people in the project limits. And the reason is we want people that live and play directly in front of these measures. So because the program or the project was from Fairbrook to McGavock, only people from Fairbrook to McGavock get to vote on the measure because they're the ones that are affected most by the speeding of that stretch.
Which way it's going to be.
Awesome. So yeah, so there are. So the ones in the purple, I do believe have already. Yeah.
Ready and
Yeah. So to recap. All right, so to recap for the people online, so we've been asked about the extents and why it ended at Fairbrook. And then we were talking about the other streets that have applied. So for the people online, the purple streets have already applied. And the reason we ended at Fairbrook was that was the application that was submitted from McGavock to Fairbrook. If we would like to extend it, I would highly recommend you put in an application extending north from Fairbrook. And then what we do is we go out, we take our measurements and then determine if we can get it in the matrix. Like I said, this is a very popular program. At this point, I think we've hit close to 500 applications. So we do have to have our matrix and decide where we can spend these, and that's based on volume, speed, pedestrian injuries, and then other factors such as pedestrian generators. And we do have a full matrix in our meeting one. We go through the matrix pretty extensively on how we actually do that, and we take all that information for all the applications.
is it ever get through?
Yeah, so they are. So the question is about what happens to the speed bumps when repaving happens. What we do is we actually remove the speed bumps, repave the road, and then place them back. So we do have storage yards where we go and we'll take them up, put them on the yard, repave the road, put them back. They are bolted into the pavement, so they come in and unbolt them, put them on the yard. It's not the easiest process, but it's doable, and it hasn't been an issue so far with our maintenance crews. So when
Third section was chosen.
So we do actually on the application typically there are endpoints given. So you would say Cabin Hill Road from McGavock Pike to Fairbrook. So correct, the applicant, and we do have this all over Middle Tennessee with all of those applications. Some applicants apply for very long stretches. Some applicants apply for just the block they live on. but it is an applicant-based program, so we do go by the applications. There's a question. There's a question online about Fairbrook getting new pavement. So there's not, to my knowledge, any plans about Fairbrook getting new pavement at this time. And then there was a question in person. Oh, so what we'll do here. Yeah. So let me move on, and then that'll explain exactly who gets the vote, exactly who is it, and if you believe you're on the map and didn't get a vote, please come talk to me. We'll gladly sort that out. Once again, we do take all our information from the GIS data that is currently available. When you buy the house, that's the address we send it to. So there are some mix-ups there. That is not a fairly common practice, but that does happen. So that may have been what happened with your particular postcard. Okay. I'll gladly talk to all of y'all one-on-one after the presentation. So moving forward with the program, I will cover a lot of these questions. So we started out with the application. We've talked about that. Then the prioritization and selection. That's where we collect the data, go through and figure out which of those 464 streets actually get to move forward with this process. And that is based, once again, mostly on speed and volumes of the roadways. Then we have our first neighborhood meeting. We actually held that one here. Did in person with people online. We went through, based on that meeting, we did a refinement of the design. I know there were several comments that were made in that meeting that we were able to take to our design, including removing the delineators from the bulb out, getting rid of some of the signage, and then going through and looking at the spacing again, trying to get a little bit wider spacing on some of them. And then I think we instituted an extra radar feedback sign. So then we had the second meeting, which is this little red one over here. And then we will go, after this meeting, we will go to the balloting process, which is an online ballot. There is a 6-week window for voting, and you can vote yes and you can vote no. It needs 66% of the people who vote to vote yes for the process to move forward. So if 3 people vote, we need 2 yeses. If 10 people vote, we need 7 yeses. Completely depends on who all votes. And we need 66% of those to be yes. Assuming it does go, then we will order materials, get the contractor scheduled, and get NDOT to go ahead and install those devices. And there is a little bit of lag. We're looking at currently around 8 months. We did bring on some extra help to try to get that down. So we're really actively working to get that construction timeline down, but due to some lag with ordering materials and things like that, especially with the pandemic that happened, we're still trying to catch up. So we are going through a backlog of these projects. It's very popular, so there is a little bit of construction delay. So going into we're about to cover that. So the balloting. So online ballot gets sent via mailers. I know that several of y'all have asked about where your mailer is. So we'll discuss who exactly gets those. And it's open for 6 weeks, and it's a simple yes or no. You want it or you don't. If you vote yes, and we have 66%, it goes forward. If you vote no, and there is up to 35% of no's, 34% of those, math, then it will not move forward. With the speed cushion design, we will not institute vertical measures. So once again, the ballot zone is everybody from McGavock to Fairbrook. That is the extent of the project. So if you own a house from McGavock to Fairbrook, you do get a vote. It's only residential properties, schools, and churches, and you get 1 vote no matter how many houses you own. So it's the owners. It's only the people in the project limits, and it is you get 1 vote no matter how many. So if you own, I heard 6 houses on the stretch, you only get 1 vote. And those ballot cards are sent to whatever address you do have on file with Metro Nashville. So that may not be the one that you are currently living in. We're going to send it to whatever is currently on file. So if you did not get a mailer and you think you should have got a mailer, then please come get with me and we'll rectify that situation to make sure you do get a ballot. That is correct. That is correct. That is correct. And the reason is, once again, it's not for the drivers, it's for the people that live and play on the roadways. They're the ones most affected by people driving fast down there in front of their houses. So that's really what it's for, because it's about the safety of the people living and playing. Yes. That- Correct. So the question was how many people are online? Let me check. Five other people are online. So that is one thing we do send out mailers. We do reach out. We use that. Yeah. Correct. So that is we do we we do understand that there are it's not a perfect system as far as making sure that everybody votes perfectly. That is the resources that we have available to us to be able to reach out to the public. We have the question for those online was about the turnout in the room plus the amount of people online does not equal the amount of eligible voters. I will say that this is actually a fairly large crowd for a typical traffic calming meeting. Um, so a lot of people, for instance, when I didn't go to the meetings for the ones on my street, just because I had scheduling conflicts with those meetings, I did go back and watch online a recording of my own street, which is kind of fun. But I will say this is actually a fairly big crowd. And then what we do is we have the tools available to us, which are the address of the owners per their per the metro records, and we have the ability to mail postcards. So that's really what we've been doing. That's the way the program's been run for all of the applications and all of the other streets that have gone through. We do understand that there are mailing mix-ups every now and then, but that is the way the program's been running so far, and it's been fairly successful. Yeah. Yes. Another question.
The method in which you
So once again, for the
any reason
yes, there is. So the question for those online was about the not all the mailers didn't make it out to everyone, and there may have been the all of the mailers have not currently gone out to everybody in the room. They did not receive them. So we're going to sort through a couple of those issues with these individuals. And then the question was about the ineffectiveness of mailers. And then the council member asked why we cannot just post the code on the Facebook group. So the reason is going back to the ballot card. So every ballot in this, I should have mentioned this, it's actually the first bullet point. The ballot card, everyone gets an individual unique ID. It's to make sure that people don't vote twice. So when you vote, you have to put in the individual unique ID code for your house to make sure that everybody gets a vote assigned to you. So we actually assign every single resident a unique ID code. And that is asked for as part of the voting process to verify the votes.
That's not exactly right. You're not explaining.
That is correct. So, question. So the question was about if you have a split household, how does the vote work? That's going to be completely up to the individual household. You are correct. I misspoke. It is one vote per property owner, and whether that's two people or one person or four people or whoever owns the property is one vote per property owner. And then there is a question online with the exact question is with me saying there's a big crowd in my experience. Do I think this will pass? I think this is completely up to the residents of the street. We do have most streets pass. I think we're in the 80 something percentile or in low 90s of people passing. We do have, on the flip side of that, we do have streets that do not or that do vote no. We have had several streets that have voted no recently.
Did you get it from people?
So question was about how many messages I got. I got one email from Kelly today with five houses that did not get notices. And then I think your house was one of them.
Evidently, I'm supposed to get it.
Which that
According.
so that would be the there were two houses of the section that were like you and another house that were outside the limits, so that would be why the mailer didn't go. And then there were two houses that it got sent to a different address because the address officially in the Metro records was not the resident of the house. And if y'all are here, I'll gladly make sure that you get a ballot because that should happen. And then there was one, I think it was a recently built house that it showed as a vacant lot in our system, so we'll definitely fix that one as well. And that I do believe, yes, that's Kelly's house. So we'll fix that one as well. Yes,
You said that.
correct. Yeah, so absolutely. If you do not have a ballot measure, so I'm going to go to the end. So the easiest way to, if you say, hey, I live at this house, I should have got a ballot, please email me or email Nashville.Traffic.Calming.Nashville.gov. It is a 6-week window. So there is time to make that happen. And then you can also call the hub, and that would be a great way to go ahead and get them sent over to the right person. No, you can't. That code, the individual ID code is on each individual ballot card, and that is so. That they do go to the official address in the Metro records for the property owner. Which I looked through them. I looked through them today, and because I was trying to figure out what those 5 addresses why they didn't get ballots. About rough estimate, 80 to 90% of the addresses on Cabin Hill are registered to Cabin Hill, and then there's a couple that are PO boxes or somewhere outside, and then there are a few that were out of state, and that's very typical for a street. That's generally what we expect because you have landlords that live out of state. And then you have different people that register to different PO boxes. So that is very common. Yeah, so going back to the timeline. So it does take about 2 weeks or so for us to get them through the mail. Just that's how long the mail takes. We typically get those out pretty quickly after this meeting. And then there's a 6-week window. So assuming that we get them out next week, it would be 6 weeks from next week. And be happy to, once again, if you don't have them in 2-3 weeks, please shoot me an email. I'll gladly figure out what happened and make sure that you're taken care of. Absolutely. Would you like me to reach out to you? I can reach out to your council member and say, the 6-week window has started. The official end date for the voting is X date. And that way, you know, if y'all are 2 or 3 weeks away from that, reach out with me. Yes, and just to clarify for the ones online, it is property owners that get the vote, not necessarily residents. So if you're a renter, you do not get a vote. That seems about right. So that this is a separate budgeting item through NDOT. So we have a dedicated pool of money to get these 50 plus we had an additional set of streets per year built. And once again, it's a very popular program, and most streets do like it. Yeah, so it's yeah. So yeah. So actually that's the main goal of them. Typically there is actually a point in the matrix where it talks about sidewalk connectivity and things like that. So if you don't have a sidewalk, that actually helps because you're more likely to be walking in the street, and we want to make sure cars are slower in the street in case you do happen to have an accident. So once again, this is the main point of this. It is the safety, and it is a direct correlation between speed and safety. So we do understand that they're a little bit annoying to drive over. I drive over 3 sets every day, twice a day at minimum, usually 4 times a day. So I do understand it, but it also makes sure that I'm driving safely. And we have kids in our neighborhood, we have dogs, we have people walking, people with strollers. And I know that, hey, I'm driving slower, which gives me a better reaction time in case a kid darts out in front. And it also makes sure that if there ever is an incident, everybody can walk away. So that's the main goal of this. It is to slow down traffic to make sure that everybody living and playing around the street is safe in case there is an accident. So that is the end goal, is to try to save lives.
I'm told it's not.
So I would highly recommend going to Hub Nashville and making a request for sidewalks. We do have a very robust sidewalk and bikeway program at NDOT. They're also obviously very popular, and they do have a long list of projects. And they do have the walk and bike plan that they're currently working through different projects, but they do prioritize and try to get those built. So there's something you can put in NDOT for a sidewalk and bikeway. Yeah, so they're very they're not there's a different cost level between speed cushions and sidewalks. There's a very different cost level. I've worked with the sidewalk program, and they can get very expensive, particularly on roads that don't have curb and gutter already. So that typically it's a cost prohibitive thing, and there is only so much money that NDOT has to be able to make these projects go. So we do have to kind of pick and choose where the need is. So
Go to west side.
so
I have a question.
So, just for those online, there was a person here in person that requested a sidewalk with a hub request. and they're saying their request got canceled because somebody else had already requested it. More than likely, that means that the street is in the matrix for them to look at, and they have it in a prioritized ranking system already, which is probably why your request was canceled, because it would have been a duplicate at that point. So they do have the streets that are considered high injury, and then they have other streets that they look at as well. And a lot of times that is council member or community asks, and then they can look at all of those and kind of rank them based on the funding they have and what they think the constructability of it is. There is a high injury network that NDOT has. Basically, they identified where the most dangerous streets, and those do get a little bit of a priority in their matrix. That's part of the decision making, but it's not necessarily guaranteed that they would go before another one. It's just that's part of their decision matrix. So y'all would be, for pedestrian safety on a quicker standpoint, traffic calming would be a lot quicker install to get those speeds down to make it safer for all the people that would be walking on the shoulder. I know this is a small street, so there's not even really much of a shoulder.
It's a nice straight level.
Yeah. Then yeah. So to bring it back, there's a question online saying that speed cushions can be annoying and even painful for specific medical conditions. It depends on how fast you go over them as far as that goes. They can be a little bit annoying to drive over, that is true, but it does slow down speeds to provide safety for pedestrians. And there is a small noise, there's a noise component to them when cars go over them. We have not experienced any main complaints with wear and tear. Yes, there's another question. So that is the main. So that is the main reason. The question was how ambulance would deal with speed cushions. So that's the main reason we do the cushions instead of the full tables that go all the way across the road. So an ambulance has a much wider wheelbase than a typical pedestrian vehicle, or even I have an SUV and my wheelbase isn't quite that wide, but an ambulance is wider, so they're able to straddle the cushions a lot better. And that is something we have worked out with EMS. Yes. Yeah, so they straddle they can straddle the cushions in an ambulance. So compared to like a table where the ambulance would have to go over it. That's a great question for our Metro Nashville Police Department. I don't exactly know how. Yeah, I'm assuming they would be yeah. Yes. Yes. So looking at there's a question about breaking it basically at Donahill. From McGavick to Donahill, we're looking at 2 radar feedback signs, that striped bulb out, and 3 sets of cushions. And then from Donahill onward, we're looking at 5 sets of cushions, and that's mostly due to the curve and to the hill. We have difficulties putting cushions on really steep hills and really sharp curves. And the reason is there's some manufacturer qualities where we're not really allowed to put them on steep hills and in the curve. Yeah. So we actually looked at all these locations in the field. The council member actually was nice enough to walk with us for, we actually did 2 walks for this road. And we actually went through and measured the locations with a measure to make sure that we're hitting the slope tolerances at these locations. And that's why we have to pick the locations they're at, to make sure the spacing and the slope tolerances are all per manufacturer's specification. Yeah, so they're based on a like 400 to 500 foot spacing. So we actually did did look at the spacing. I'm trying to get that closer to that 500 foot. Trying to space them more. Oh, that is a great question. That is a great question. I'm not off the top of my head. Mhm. Bulb out. And per our meeting, we're not putting the bulb out. And then there is a question about ice and snow online. And just want to say that we have been working with NDOT maintenance, particularly about icy and snowy roads. And so far, we've not had any issues as far as their regular NDOT maintenance crews as far as snow and ice goes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, typically that's the process, is they're not. You would lift the plow and go over it. Yeah. But typically roads, yeah. So we actually do. There's a question about how you would plow the road. We do have a couple roads that are both traffic calming eligible and plow eligible. It's a very rare circle. But what they do is they know where the cushions are and able to move the plow around it. So they don't plow where the cushions are exactly. They plow up to them and then after them. It would take they're actually they're modularized rubber devices. So they're little blocks of rubber that have holes in them for it to be drilled in. So it would take quite a lot for them to freeze and actually crack. And if you do ever have any maintenance issues, please reach out to the hub, reach out to me, reach out to NDOT, and we'll get that corrected. It's a modularized rubber, very similar to like a tire. So I'm not a let's see, yeah, that would be a great question. Yeah, so they actually got installed after that ice storm, so I don't know exactly how my street would be affected by an ice storm. I do know that we do have them all over Nashville, and that really hasn't been a complaint. Once again, we don't put them on steep hills, so it'd be mostly flatter places anyway. Gotcha. Gotcha. That is correct. They're not made to help build speed. So there's a question online about the nails that are used. Actually, the bolts would be a more applicable term. That hold those lifting up. No, we typically we bolt them down, glue the bolts in, and they're pretty deep, pretty big bolts that are dug into the pavement. So we haven't had any major issues there. I mean, with any device that gets installed, if there is an issue, please let us know and we'll gladly go back and maintenance it. We do have crews that go out and do that. All right. So the radar feedback signs, as seen on screen, the questions are about one side of the street or both sides of the street. For this application, we did them on the bottom of the hills. So just be facing people traveling to the west, downhill. Yeah. So right here. So the one right here, right before Donna Hill, and then one as you come off McGavick. Yes. So there's one here, right, kind of by the driveway of 2404. I think we tried to put that one kind of hidden by a tree. That would still be able to point. We do take aesthetics into consideration with those, trying to kind of hide them from the properties and the windows. But we still have to make sure that they are visible from the streets. And these, for those online, we're talking about the radar feedback signs and locations. And then another one is right there. It'd be kind of straddling the property line between 2450 and 2454. Yeah. And that one was a struggle for me to try to place to make sure it's still. I tried to hide it as much as possible from y'all's view, but still pointing up the road to be able to see everything. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So we took the corridor, and then tried to get it to that spacing of like 400 to 500. And then we did end up stretching it closer to the 500 side. And then based on where the cushions laid out, based on that spacing, we looked at trying to slide them around to see, as far as the geometric constraints, the kills and the curves. And then when we couldn't have a cushion because of those geometric constraints, then we had to go to the radar feedback sign. So we laid out in a perfect world scenario where the cushions would be, and then we had to basically fine tune them based on the geometrics of the road. And then the ones that couldn't be cushions, we would replace them with feedback. Yeah. Yeah. So, oh, you're talking about the speeds of the roads, or are you talking about? That sounds correct. That is a great question. I'm not exactly sure where those line up. I do know when yeah. So so we, as a program, this is getting really nuts and bolts. Which is awesome. I love that. So we, as a program, when we get an application, we go ahead and collect the data as part of the next prioritization cycle. So that's going back, timeline's this way. So that's going back to that prioritization selection. So we go ahead and throw it into the matrix. And then that's kind of where the stats are. And then we compare them to streets. And if they're not eligible that selection cycle with the new applications thrown in, then we can go through and reprioritize selection cycles. I do believe they're eligible for, I want to say, 3 years from the original application before that application rolls off. So that's where the data comes from. That's how the prioritization works. So if you don't make it, we don't want, hey, you got in a really competitive selection cycle, but you're a good project. You just have to be, number 26 out of 25. So you don't get it next time. So there is a couple cycles that the streets get to go through.
I think that last time you gave us some like.
Yeah. That would have been before. Correct. Yeah. So for the for those online, yeah. So for those online, the question was about the timing between the change in speed limit from 30 to 25 and the collection of the data when the project was originally put into the prioritization and selection, which was in 2022, and the speed limit did change in 2023. That being said, we are still, I think the 85th percentile speed was well above 25 miles an hour. I think it was around 37. That's off the top of my head. So it's pretty high, and we're trying to get it down to that safer 20 to 25 mile an hour range. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to have a sidebar. Yeah. 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 But yeah. Once again, we took the desired spacing for the entire street. Yeah. So that's so we gotcha. Yeah. So there's a question online about property values. Um, so I do want to say that I don't have any hard research. It was pointed out to me by a council member that they had done their own research separately, and that they said that property values did actually increase with speed cushions. It's basically viewed by the community as the community caring about their streets and kind of a more homey feel. I don't have any hard data to back that up. The council member did their own research and came up with that, but I have heard that from multiple sources. So that's the answer to that. Once again, no hard data from my own research, but that has been brought up by other residents and council members that it does actually bring up home values. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that first presentation, the data on that is actually posted online on YouTube, the entire presentation. And then so you can go back and watch that if you want that, and I can actually send you the PDF of the first presentation as well. And if you want to hang around after this meeting, I can show you as well.
Anyway, but I think that those were actually questions.
That was true. That was something that came from the first meeting, was making sure that we had a cushion as close as we could with the constraints, and trying to fit everything by the bottom where the deer crossing is. So that was part of the first meeting, and something we were able to do. There's a question online real quick about how easy to remove, and has any neighborhood removed the cushions. Um, to my knowledge, I do not know of any neighborhood that has ever wanted these and then turned around and not wanted them. I don't think we've had any neighborhoods asked to have them removed after they've been installed. Um, that's to my knowledge. I'm not aware of any that have asked to have them removed after they come on. Most people, once they have them, they're happy that they're there. Yes, question in person.
There's a reason I'm asking this.
Okay. Hold on a second. Did the voting happen yet? CADY KAIMAN.
Yeah, gotcha. So you're talking about this one right here on screen.
Yeah.
Said
Okay.
earlier, said they're more annoying than
Yeah.
annoying hyphen. They're painful if you have specific medical questions. Even if you drive slowly over, they're painful. Also, how does this impact the ice? No, we already can't get out of this neighborhood due to no plowing.
Yeah, from the Fairbrook side. So they should be able to see the cushions and slow down and prior to. Yeah. And that is the speed cushion ahead sign. See, there is a slow down zone before the cushion, because most people don't want to fly over them at high speed. They do. That's kind of the way they work. But that being said, you are correct. There is nothing hard and fast at your property to make them slow down. And I can look at the intersection with Fairbrook. But like I said, the main thing was the spacing, trying to make sure that with that cushion is not too far away from the other cushion, because then you have the thing where a car will go over a cushion and then they'll try to make up time and speed up because the next cushion is not close enough for them to realize that they can't get to speed. So it is kind of a domino effect. And that is why we really look at this as a whole, not just individual cushion locations, because we do have to make sure they all work in unison. So that's kind of why the cushion was placed there, but I can look at that. And then there's somebody online asking about the voting. The voting has not happened yet. That would happen after this meeting. And then that would be the 6-week balloting period. And I will communicate with the council member exactly the dates on when that opens and when that closes. It does not appear to be so.
Okay.
For those 3 streets. Yeah. That being said, more people apply every cycle. We host 2 cycles a year. So we're constantly adding new applications. We have almost 500 streets that have applied so far throughout the program. So there are a lot of applications, very popular program. A lot of people really trying to make their neighborhood safer. So a lot of streets have applied and more streets apply every cycle. Yes. So that is Ridgeland Drive, Donna Hill Drive, and Dundee Lane. Dundee Lane. And those are the streets on the screen that are in purple that have applied for those online. So we have 2 different ways to keep people in the street. That is a major concern and something we constantly have to deal with the program. The first thing is we have, so this is to keep people on the street. First one is that speed limit or speed cushion sign. We have those beside the cushion. So that way you can't drive like on the shoulder. And the other thing is this is a fairly narrow road, so there's not much shoulder to drive on. And then the other one is that flexible delineator, which is the bottom right picture. So those are to the side of the cushion as well. So we try to make sure there is a physical device to the side of the cushion to make sure that you can't go around it.
And put them beside the speed bump.
Yeah. So that is something where there were some that got installed a while back that did not have some sort of device there, and people were driving around. So we've had to go back and rectify those. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had to go back and rectify those. But that moving forward, we try to learn as we go. So we make sure that if there's not a curb there or something keeping people in the roadway, we try to put some sort of physical device there.
Question. Put it in of Nashville.
So yeah. Hub Nashville is the first step. This is in case one of the radar feedback signs is blank. Hub Nashville is the first step. You can also email NDOT Traffic Calming, or you can email me personally, Harrison.Turner at Nashville.gov. Yeah.
Significant hard data.
Yes. So there, we did a study for those as well. Those speed limit signs have a 6 mile per hour average speed reduction and a 7 mile per hour 85th percentile speed reduction. And going back to my email, so I just realized that is my Nashville.gov email. I'll actually give you my official work email, which is Harrison.Turner at Kimley-Horn TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. That one is the one tied to my phone that every time it pings, I see it. So I answer that one basically every time I'm awake. So as a Metro consultant, I have a Metro email to be able to do things like this presentation. And then I have my official company email because I'm a consultant to Nashville. So, yes, harrison.turner@kimley-horn.com, KIMLEY-HORN.com. That is the email that I've got on my phone. I've actually got 2 or 3 unreads right now. Yes, I am a consultant that has been hired by Metro Nashville to do the traffic calming program. That is a great question. So NDOT does install. They oversee the whole program. We are underneath an NDOT advisory. They have a regional traffic engineer that oversees this portion of Metro or Davidson County and our designs and everything. So this is an NDOT program. We're just hired to help with the designs and help facilitate these meetings. We have a great partnership, trying to get through all those 500 something or almost 500 applications. We have to have a bigger team. So there's a team of
Take care of the backlog to try to.
yeah. So we have a contract with NDOT to do traffic engineering, including traffic calming program, and then we have a group of consultants that help NDOT get those applications and get through these designs and make sure that we're delivering them on time. To make sure that everything's moving smoothly.
Their incentive to your consultant.
Even though you're spending money, you're probably making more better.
So so there's a question about my personal incentive. There is one street that I did have incentive, and that was my own. And I didn't even do that one. I handed it to another consultant in our group. We have a group of about 5 of us that split up the streets and make sure that we're able to push these forward. I get no incentive, no kickback, no nothing if it passes or fails. I personally am a Davidson County resident. I live in East Nashville. And yeah, our consultant company is the same way. We get no incentive, no pushback. We are hired to design these and present these to the public and get it to balloting. So if the ballot passes, it's great, and we're happy because we're happy for a safer Davidson County. If the ballot fails, then we understand that the community didn't want them, and we move on to the next steps.
Your check clears all the
Yeah, our company is not financially awarded or benefited by a passed or a failed vote. We are hired to help run the program and help with the design and the public meetings. So yeah, so that. Yeah, so there's nothing for me, no kickback. This is any opinions that I've shared.
I'm almost gonna say, come on,
please take them with a grain of salt. But this is purely a program to try to make sure that Davidson County, which is where I personally work, live, and play, is safer. So that's what it is. We do understand there are communities that don't want it, and you do have the right to vote yes or no. I'm assuming that you are in the balloting zone. Yeah.
I wish I was there to see who these jerks are that are making these comments. No, I really didn't want to know if these unlimited jerks.
Yeah. So yeah. So once again, it is the point of the program is to try to make it safer in case there is a collision between a pedestrian and a vehicle, and making sure everybody can walk away. Part of the Vision Zero initiative that Nashville has, and that like you said, the reason we ballot the people that are directly in front and in the project limits is because they're the ones that are most affected by speeds in front of their residential houses. They're the ones that most likely to be involved in those incidents. So that's really why the people get those votes. And we do have this question a lot. We have several people in your situation that are just outside the balloting zone that would have to drive over it because that's the way they get to and from work, school, whatever you're going to. But the program does only ballot people that have direct property in front of the ballot zone or in the project zone. It varies by application. Like I said, we have very long applications and we have very short applications.
My only concern about it, if it passes, is that people will stop using Cabin Hill and will speed down Fairbrook.
Cabin Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already think, well, we're gonna just walk down where Cabin Hill now.
Well, when I walk this, I go that way and I go that way. I go up in
Yes.
the morning.
That's much after that.
Yes. So we did have the first meeting. Once again, it is online. You're welcome to watch it as part of the National Department of Transportation YouTube page. And if you go to National Traffic Calming, there is a link to that as well. It goes through the whole process. And then so this balloting map, which should have been a mailing zone, was shown as part of the first meeting. And then there are some questions that have come in online. The first one's about how easy to remove. So these cushions are bolted down, and then as we've said, no neighborhood that I'm aware of has actually asked to have these removed. And then there was a comment about moving traffic on streets, or onto separating streets. So that's not something we study. That's not something that we're trying to do with the program. We're not trying to move traffic around. We're trying to just slow it down to a safe speed for everybody. That way, once again, in case there is an incident, everybody can walk away.
Traffic.
So what
Why there's a little more.
Yeah.
Why isn't all?
So the question for those online was about basically looking through an application and not trying to go ahead and expand it. So once again, this is a public process as far as the application. So we do go by the application that is assigned, and we go by the support of the public to get that application in. So it could be as simple as, that the neighbors for this section of the street really wanted it, and the neighbors on the other side did not, or something like that.
Never do it.
Or
Because
yeah.
again, if they were included in the application.
So yeah, that is, we do only send mailings to people directly in front of it.
This
Yeah.
is
So
Trump world. We want a speed bump because the Mexicans are taking our job.
yes, I will go back and find the application. And sorry, sir, online, there's a question online. Could you repeat that? Okay, I must have missed that one. So there's a question about if they're permanent. Yes, that is the goal. They are bolted into the pavement. So that is supposed to be a permanent, or a pretty permanent fix. We do have to go back and maintenance them
You
eventually,
really
but
wanted them now.
they are pretty permanent.
Should I ask? It's candy.
Where she lives. I guess she lives on Cabin Hill. She's in this.
Oh, this caddy.
It's Katie or whatever.
Yeah, now the candy is the one that says, are they permanent? Cadet,
No.
whatever her name is. Cat.
So I will have to go back to the exact first meeting to make sure. But yes, we did slide them around and try to make sure the deer crossing and everything,
So
and
they
then trying to
can't
get to the end of the
removed?
project. So we may have slid them around a little bit more and spaced them more rather than like say removed a cushion.
Earlier,
Yes, question in the back.
they said if they pave the road, they do.
But I don't know well, that would be right if they paved the road.
He said earlier that they would remove them if they.
That is a fantastic question. The question is about somebody that gets, say if you own 6 properties, why do you only get 1 vote? I do not have the exact reasoning for that. I do know that's how the program's been run since I've been involved with the program through several cycles now, and that's been the current way the program has been done. And once again, it's schools, churches, and then residential properties all get 1 vote. So that is the program. So he would have received 1. And we'll get together after this to make sure he does receive a ballot. But we do filter those out. If we see an address that's the mailing address is the same for 6 properties, we're gonna send it. We're just gonna send one. Yeah. Yes. So so unfortunately, cost is a major factor. Yeah, so it's very difficult to do outside of cost. Like my street, for instance, does have sidewalk, and I still was very much in favor of speed cushions just because of the speed going in, and the speed of the cars around it, and in case, if you slip off the sidewalk or something, you're still in the roadway. There's still that chance. So if you're wanting to go ahead and slow down speeds, given the roadway the way it currently is, speed cushions are the best way. Correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I would. So the question was about sidewalk being a physical barrier and giving a safe space for pedestrians. I love sidewalks. I've worked with the NDOT sidewalk program. I'm currently designing sidewalks across Middle Tennessee, but unfortunately, it really comes down to a cost constraint from that point, and there's a huge cost difference between sidewalks and speed cushions. So for slowing down the traffic, sidewalks don't really do that, but for providing pedestrian safe space, they do provide a pedestrian safe space, assuming they're designed correctly. So going back to your distracted driving, these going back to the 3 E's of traffic calming, that would fall in that education and enforcement standpoint. Trying to do education on the dangers of distracted driving, and then the enforcement from NDOT, not NDOT, from the Nashville Police Department for go ahead enforcing people that do drive distracted, making sure that that's done. Unfortunately, that's not something we can take care of from an engineering standpoint. We can't engineer the roads to make it harder for you to drive distracted. Hopefully, you can, or if with having the speed cushions, you would pay more attention because you are going over the speed cushions, which would lessen distracted driving. But you can't engineer a road to keep people from being distracted. Yes. Yes. So we went through the whole asking about tools in the toolbox for the traffic calming program. Yeah. So in the toolbox, what we have are the speed cushions, speed tables, and then basically bulb out striping and that sort of options through this program. That's the tools that this program has based on the budget of the program and based on the length of the street and the goals of the program. So sidewalks are not part of this program. They are fantastic, and I love sidewalks. Like I said, I've designed them across Middle Tennessee, but unfortunately, they're just not part of this program. Yeah. Yeah. That's a different program with NDOT. So that's a different section. Yeah. And then there's a question online about when they would be installed. So once again, there is a six week balloting process, and then there's a little bit of time to get the ballots out. So 6 weeks plus the ballot, then we have to go through and count it, make sure that everything's good on that front. And then we would get it into the contractor's hands. So we're looking at currently, I believe, like an 8-month time frame is from when the ballot's done to when they're actually installed. Once again, very popular program, large backlog. We're trying to burn through them, and we have made significant strides in shortening that time frame down. Recently, we've got them going in pretty quickly comparatively to how we were like last year. Yes.
Say there were 96 houses.
That's the Somewhere around then, yeah. That is correct. It's
Two that said yes. That would carry.
so that is the case. So it's completely based on how many people vote, not how many people live on the street. Well, we do find that not everybody votes. I mean, for any election or ballot, it's not everybody's going to vote. So we have it based on people that actually turn in the ballots. So yes, it's a percentage of the total ballots that have been turned in. Yes, question. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, so we're still at yeah, we're still at 8, and we spaced them further out to try to get closer to the edge, and then also to make sure that we were hitting that crossing near the creek where the deer crossing is. So that is Yeah.
I see them frequently.
yeah. So that was a something from the first meeting, was making sure that we had one at that location, and then being able to space them across the street, getting the effective spacing. That was something we were able to do as much as we could. So that's where that came from. So to be able to lose any more and keep that spacing, we would have to kind of shorten it down, which we've already heard is probably not the best solution for the people that live on the end of the street. We looked at it. We tried to space them out and get the spacing to where we could get it down, but to keep the spacing at where they're still effective at getting it down to an acceptable speed. If the wider you space them, the more likely it is somebody's just going to try to gun it between, and then you create a stop start, which is not a safe condition for anybody. Yeah. So yes. Last question. Or sorry, not last question. Question back. Mhm. So I don't have that exact data in front of me. I'm guessing based on what you're saying, those are probably installed at like 350 to 400 feet. Um, so so we basically anything we're shooting for sub 500. 400 to 500 is really around that 20-mile-an-hour range is what we're trying to shoot for, which is safer for a residential or a suburban residential area. So that's where that 4 to 500 is, and these are pretty close to that 500 limit. But we do go closer in certain areas where it's a little bit denser. Yeah.
It's my neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have 2 of those. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a natural.
Yeah. And once again, that's not the goal of the program. The goal of the program is just to slow down speeds for the roads that have been identified as meeting it most based on speed and volume of the cars on it. So that's not the goal of the program to move cars onto other streets. It's to keep people at a safer speed for all the residents of the street that applied for it.
Acknowledge that
Sometimes sometimes it does happen, sometimes it doesn't. It completely depends on the neighborhood configuration and the streets. So it's expected anytime you do any sort of traffic improvement, it will have some sort of change, but we don't measure that. We're not trying to do that. That's not the goal of the program. The goal of the program is to keep it safer for all people involved. And for those online, we're talking about traffic diverting onto other streets, not being the goal of the program. The goal of the program is to make the traffic that is on the street that we are trying to lower the speed on actually go at a slower speed, and creating a physical device that encourages lower speeds to do that. Yes. Any other questions as we're going through? Yes. So that'll be posted online once the votes are tallied. What we do, I think it is, I think what we post is the name of the street, if it passed, and what percentage it passed with. I think that's what we vote. We have had council members in the past actually ask for a detailed breakdown of the exact numbers. But typically we post online as soon as the ballot comes in. It'll be Cabin Hill Road passed, 75%, or failed 55%, whatever that is. And like I said, this is a very popular program. Most streets do pass. We have a decent chunk of streets that pass 100%. We do have some streets that fail. We had some recently that did fail. So it does go both ways, but most streets do pass. And most streets are very, very happy with it once it goes to get installed. I will say my street was actually a triplet, so there were 3 streets that kind of got lumped together because they're on shorter stretches, and they all passed, and the residents seem to be pretty happy with it. Yeah, like 11 out of 11 or something like that.
But you got
It completely varies by street. Some streets we do have a very high turnout. Some streets we have a lower turnout. I don't have that exactly. I would probably say on average you're looking at somewhere between like 30 to 60% of the people vote. So that is,
it's a little over half. It's 50%.
Yeah.
No, it actually took the
so once again, not everybody participates. Not everybody cares one way or the other. There are landlords, in California that will just grab it and toss it. There are people that do care very, very much because this is the place they live, work, and play. And then there are people that are adamant against it. So there are people that vote both ways, and they all are given an opportunity if you live in this project limits, or own a property in the project limits.
If there's 96 potential ballots,
That would be
people
that.
did not vote for it.
So what that would be there would be people that voted yes, 66% voted yes, 34% voted no, and then there would be a bunch of abstains. Basically, is the way we would count it. People that just didn't vote. So they do have an opportunity. We do make sure that they get the mail card. If you did not, please get with me. We want to make sure that you have an option to vote if you are a property owner within the ballot zone. That is something we want to make sure happens. But they do have the option. And basically they say we just don't care one way or the other. It's how that vote's taken. No, so it is there. It is online. There's instructions that come in the card exactly. It does have the unique ID code. And then I do believe there also is a phone number Yes, there is a phone number on the ballot as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about your vote, making sure it got counted, or if you've had issues getting the vote in, or if you have issues getting a computer to run or whatever it is. I do know we have some people that don't like to use computers, so they do call in instead. So there is a number to call in your vote as well. But typically, most people will just go online, put in your vote, your name, your address, your unique ID code, and your vote, yes or no. And those address and unique ID code are used to verify that your vote's coming from you and is assigned to the correct street and correctly counted. Awesome. Any other, yes, question in the back? Yeah. So the question for those online was about drunk drivers, and I did say I would come back to you on that. I haven't found any major statistical things on it yet. I will do further research and get back to you. Can you stay for the end real quick, and I'll get your email and then make sure that I follow up with you on the side on that. Yeah. Any other questions?
So couple people actually, you know, say,
And there are, but I think we're talking about, you know.
So for the volume, I highly recommend going and driving over them or getting somebody that you know to drive over them while you're around, so you can hear it. I do have, like I said, I have them on my street, and I don't have noise. I am not directly in front of the cushion, so I will. Yeah, so I would highly recommend if that's something that you're concerned about, like you said, going and talking to people that have them directly in front of them, or going to a street that does have them and standing there and having a car go over them, you know, at the standard 25 mile an hour, and then you can actually hear it and see what it is.
So they can't.
Yeah.
It must be. Your window. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Uh, so I will gladly. I'll move over here to handle any questions one on one. I think we're wrapping up. So I'll turn it over to council member. So I'll move out to the parking lot then. But absolutely.